said, yo, what up YouTube? My name is Rap. This is iRap on Point, and welcome back. But if you're new to the channel, how you doing? We are here back at Azhymovs. Look, man, I feel like I'm butchering that nasty. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just call them AZ so I won't, get it twisted. We're back at their channel to check out more of their DBD content. I also want to give a big shout out to one of my members, the fabulous Cuckoo. Now look, if you guys have been following my channel for a minute, y'all know that I've been putting up community polls for you to vote to see which killer versus which killer you would like to see. And they actually told me, yo, Rap, it's been done in video form for you to check out. And I didn't know it was from the legendary AZ. Salutes to AZ. Their channel link will be in the description along with Cuckoo. Make sure y'all follow My DBD Family. They're amazing. I'm actually psyched to check out these videos because I know AZ is going to put like the science and the math into it. I'm already seeing Wraith versus Trapper, Legion versus Huntress, which are the two videos I'm going to check out for this video. And yo, I'm pretty psyched on it. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. I'm trying to hit 15k subscribers by tomorrow. Smash that like, hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload and want to go live. And if we can get this video to 40 likes, y'all know the deal. I'm gonna hit y'all with another one tomorrow. Enough talk, we know what time it is. If you dig it and you with it, let me know, because we about to get into these videos. So let's go. So y'all already know we're gonna start off with Wraith versus Trapper. Let's see what you got.
Hey everyone, today we're doing a new series where we assess the strength of killers and pit them against one another to try and deduce who would win in a 1v1 fight. We're going to do this by assigning each of the killers a number score with 6 categories: strength, agility, stealth, power, resistance, and intelligence. Strength is an assessment of the killer's physical strength. Agility is an assessment of how quickly they can move and strike their weapon. Stealth is how stealthy they are. Power is how effective or strong their power is. Resistance is their ability to resist incoming direct attacks. And intelligence is an assessment of how smart they are or are not. With these scores and my own reasoning for each of the numbers, we will decide who I think would likely win in a 1v1 fight. I'm going to try and be as objective as possible and be—
Okay, hold on. Now, before he proceeds and continues on, with the math and the science on the 1v1, I'm gonna say Wraith is gonna win. Alright, I'm gonna vote for Wraith. I think Wraith could win due to the fact that when they cloak, that's such a big advantage, because you can't freaking see them and stuff like that. But then again, the traps can kind of work like that too. You have to keep your eyes open. You're not trying to step on that shit. But yo, I'm gonna go for Wraith. Let's see if I win.
Without any bias. Today we're going to try and work out who would win in a 1v1. The Trapper or the Wraith. Okay. Let's begin by looking at strength, our first category. Let's start with Trapper first. Okay. Mostly because the strength category is one that is quite easy to decide upon for Trapper. In my opinion, I think it's quite clear that Trapper is quite strong physically. We can dictate this based on 2 of his perks: Brutal Strength, a perk that allows him to break faster, and finally Agitation, which allows him to carry faster. These are both actions that require a certain level of physicality and strength. Trapper also has this increase over other killers. Despite having metal entangled within his body, he still remains incredibly strong physically. For those reasons, we are going to assign Trapper with a perfect score of 10, so a very strong start for him. Now, Wraith, although a similar height, does not appear to be as physically strong. He is more athletically built, a lot leaner but also a lot less bulky. Meaning he may be fit or healthy, but not necessarily crazily strong. None of Wraith's perks indicate a significant amount of strength either. However, due to the fact that he is tall and looks relatively strong, we're going to place his strength at a mid-tier of 5. He may not be able to get—
Nah, come on, man. 5? At least give him an 8. Come on, like, Wraith looks strong enough. But anyway, yo, AZ's the man. I'm not gonna question him. Let's go.
The sheer power that Trapper has, but he could certainly hold his own. Okay, agility next. Trapper has a regular movement speed of 4.6 meters per second, which makes him average in terms of his ability to move about. However, Trapper does lose some points here despite being average, as he's quite physically slow and lumbering in his movement and the way he utilizes his weaponry. When placing traps without add-ons, he's quite slow and he has to bend down quite awkwardly. Trapper's clothing is also fairly heavy depending on what he wears, his typical get-up being a rubber apron, a skull mask, and a heavy cleaver, as well as carrying his traps. So he's not exactly mobile. We should also note that he has metal piercing his body, likely making his movements stiffer and painful.
Yes.
For these reasons, Trapper's agility I am placing at 2. In a fight, it's going to be hard for him to move about freely. Now, Wraith is quite the opposite of Trapper. Although he does have the same average movement speed of 4.6 meters per second, this goes up to 5.04 meters per second without add-ons when cloaked, which is a considerable increase of speed. Wraith is also quite agile, as we discussed before, as he has much more of an athletic build than Trapper, and one which makes him lighter on his feet, as well as quicker. Wraith's clothing is also very light quite broadly. He wears thin clothing and cloaks and carries probably a fairly light weapon, and of course his bell. He also isn't restricted by any bodily injuries, so we can assume Wraith overall is very agile. Despite this, however, Wraith won't quite score a perfect 10, as his base movement speed is still only average when uncloaked. So for agility, Wraith gets an 8.
Yes,
so
okay.
This brings the overall scores to 12 points for Trapper and 13 points for Wraith so far. Okay, so for stealth, Trapper, although being lumbering and heavy, is actually quite stealthy. Trapper's whole premise is that he kind of sneaks away and sets up traps in a somewhat stealthy and elusive way, so that when the survivors reach an area, then they step in his traps. Trapper is also quite sneaky if you watch the cutscenes. He manages to be unseen, and then when you step in his trap, he comes for you. His traps once again are also a part of his stealth, with them being hidden well. He is a master trapper at the end of the day, not just a slasher. He's hunted loads of different animals, even as big as bears. His downfall mainly is that his stealth isn't directly applicable when he is facing off, or chasing you really. So Trapper gets a 6. Wraith has quite a straightforward answer, seeing as he can literally be invisible, and so his stealth is quite clearly going to be very high in its potential. From his agility as well, we can assume that Wraith is a very effective stealth.
Okay, I must say that Wraith gets a 10 with stealth. I mean, he has to, like, going invisible, it's crazy, bro. Like, can you imagine the kind of shit you could get away with if you had invisibility? Besides being butt naked all day, you could get away with shit, man.
Quite clearly going to be very high in its potential. From his agility as well, we can assume that Wraith is a very effective stealth hunter, also based on his perks, and so his stealth would be good in a fight. However, Wraith's only downfall is his bell. Due to his bell needing to be rung before uncloaking, he gets a bit of a decrease from a perfect score, so I'm putting Wraith at a 9 for stealth. Next up we have the power category, which is one where we look at the two killers' powers. So, Trapper's power is fairly simple. He has bear traps. There's nothing supernatural or anything really about him. He's just really good at hunting and trapping his prey. He's also strong at creating perimeters and tricking others into his traps. I don't think there's too much to say about Trapper's power, so we're giving it a 3. Now remember, this is just a score of the power only, and not the killer's skill with their power. Just what the power actually is. Wraith is quite strong in terms of his power of cloaking. His power lets him go very nearly invisible upon ringing his bell twice. This is a factor that needs to be considered, however, and also the fact that his invisibility does not make him completely invisible, just partially. To someone like Trapper, an expert hunter, he would likely see him coming some of the time, so although Wraith has a very strong power, due to its downsides, he gets a score of 6. Okay, next up, resistance. Right off, I think it's pretty clear to see that Trapper is quite heavily resistant to incoming damage, in the form of the metal twisted through him, the huge claw and gash marks over him, and also the fact that he is relatively unfazed and can repeatedly step in his own traps and be mostly uninjured. Trapper seems to have thick skin basically, as well as wearing a rubber apron and a bone mask. He is going to be very resistant, I think, to attacks, even if they are from sharp objects. So, Trapper gets a 9. Wraith is a different story. Despite his tall stature and relative strength, there is nothing to suggest that he would be able to resist a hard blow from Trapper, if Trapper managed to land a swing. Due to his lack of armor, and the fact that he doesn't seem to have thicker skin or resistance in any way.
Why do I feel like AZ's gonna give him a 3? Damn!
Wraith is going to score below average at 3. This makes the scores fairly close, with Wraith leading on 31 points, and Trapper close behind with 30. Okay, so intelligence. Trapper is not that intelligent. He doesn't.
And he laughs. This fool laughed. I was gonna say that, like, what you call it? I forgot what video I saw. I'm pretty sure it was AZ's video, one of them, to where he steps on his own traps. I think it's his left leg that takes mostly all the damage when he steps on a damn trap. So that should tell you that he's not all there. Like he makes mistakes. I'm not gonna say he's not all there. He's like, you know, he could be clumsy here and there when he steps into his traps, you know.
Doesn't seem to be that intelligent, at least. There's also suggestions lore-wise that he isn't overly academic or anything like that. He is also blinded by his loyalties to his father, which makes him miss the obvious fact that his father killed his mother and uncle, and he doesn't find out for years. However, the Trapper is intelligent in one regard, which is, well, traps. He is a very good hunter in a sort of specialized way. So this does bring his score up. Despite him being an effective hunter, however, he is still below average for intelligence, and so we place him at a 4. That brings Trapper's overall to 34. Wraith also doesn't seem that bright, given the fact that he has a similar ignorance like Trapper does to his father, except with his boss and the cars he was crushing at Auto Heaven Wreckers. Also, Wraith rings a bell when he comes out of stealth. That seems like a bit of an oversight when you're trying to be stealthy. So, I'm sorry to say it, but Wraith is getting put at 2, bringing his overall to 33. Meaning Trapper wins by 1 point. Now, my overall opinion on if these two fought is that it would be very close. One is stealthy and a hunter, and so is the other to an extent. But they vary with agility, power, all these things, meaning overall I think it would be very even, with it being a scenario where if they were to fight 100 times, then Trapper would win 51 and Wraith 49. That's my assessment. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Be sure to drop your own scores below and tell me who you think would win.
I think Wraith would win! How you gonna do me like that? By 1 point? Actually, that's not bad though. It's understandable because I rock with AZ in the sense that if Trapper would have landed that freaking blow, what is his weapon? Big ass machete, right? Is that what he's rocking? If Trapper would have just smacked that fool, if Trapper would have smacked Wraith with his weapon, Wraith might not be able to handle it. So I give him that, alright? I give him that. So this was actually a great video. I'm going to drop a like on it. And let's check out the other one, which is, I believe, Legion versus my baby boo Huntress. Alright? Let's check it out. Alright, y'all. We are here with Legion versus Huntress. Who would win? I'm rocking with Huntress. Alright? I think in one of the stories of Huntress that I seen... You know what video it was? It was the detailed video that I saw where I think Huntress kills a soldier and fucking rocks his, like his holster or some shit, right? So, I'm going with Huntress all the way. That's a huge bitch, so let's go.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the 1v1 series, a series where we pit 2 DBD killers against one another.
Hold up, let me stop this now. Is this just a 1v1 or is it the entire crew versus Huntress? Because if it's like that, that's not fair. It's 4 of them versus Huntress, that's not fair, but let's check it out,
Based on stats and our 6 categories, strength, agility, stealth, power, resistance, and intelligence, to decide which one would come out victorious. Strength is an assessment of the killer's physical strength. Agility is an assessment of how quickly they can move and strike their weapon. Stealth is how stealthy they are. Power is how effective or strong their power is, and resistance is their ability to resist incoming direct attacks. And finally, intelligence is an assessment of how smart they are or are not. With these scores and my own reasoning for each of the numbers, we will decide who I think would likely win in a 1v1 fight. I'm going to try and be as objective as possible. By the way, I'm also now making this series into a bit of a tournament that has 3 rounds and then a final. Each round, half the killers will be eliminated until we finally get a 1v1 of the 2 highest winning killers.
Nice!
So basically, we're going to figure out who's the strongest killer in the game, and it's going to be really cool. Last week we did Trapper versus Wraith, so you can go back and watch that if you want. This week it is the Legion versus the Huntress.
Let's go Huntress!
Okay, so strength first. I think we're actually going to start off with the Huntress for this one. Now, I'm going to say straight up that the Huntress is quite strong, simply based off her weapon usage. She carries a very large and quite heavy looking axe as her main weapon, along with up to 7 hatchets. Fairly big ones too, around her belt. All in all, she is carrying a lot, and yes, her speed is slightly below average at 4.4 meters per second, which is 0.2 meters per second below the average. However, this number is pretty negligible when we look at how much she is carrying. So, I think we have to assume that the Huntress is quite strong. Now, along with this, she throws her hatchets when wound up for a few seconds across an entire map, which is probably a couple hundred meters at least. That's like a ridiculously good throw and throwing arm, so I think her strength, at least relative to the Legion, is going to be a solid 10. Now,
yes!
Legion is a little trickier because, well, they're 4 people, aren't they? So they don't really have a singular strength. So we're going to do our best to work around this. Let's just say that to begin with, the Legion probably isn't that strong. Individually, that is. They are regular people, and teenagers. So probably quite healthy, but none of them look super jacked or anything. They look like above average strength teenagers. Legion also don't really...
They should be 5, bro. I think For strength, Legion should be at a 5. This is just my opinion though, right?
They carry anything particularly heavy. They have regular clothes and combat knives, and sure, they can sprint with all this on, but that doesn't really mean much because everything they have is super light. Based on the fact that we're averaging a mid-tier strength at 5, I think Legion is going to be placed at a modest 3. Remember though that this stat is technically 4 people with 3 strength, so a collective attack will make them a 12 and therefore stronger. Next up, we are heading over to the agility category. My initial thoughts on Huntress is that she is going to be quite difficult to pin. Part of me thinks that she is quite agile. She can spin around quickly, nail quick hatchet shots with some wrist flicks, but she is also very tall, and by that extension maybe a bit more ambling, and may not be as agile in the typical sense. I also want to bring up my previous point of her lower movement speed. We can also assume based on her clothes she is fairly agile though, with cloth clothes and only the mask. Depending on which one she wears, it might be a restriction. So my point being is that I think she is agile for her size, but I don't think she is agile relative to the Legion, which means we're going to have to pin her, I think, right in the middle, at 5. Okay, Legion is quite clearly an agile group. They are the only killers in the game that can run, and they are also relatively small and wear light masks and clothing and carry very light weapons. The only restriction is arguably that some of them wear leather jackets, which isn't overly optimal for movement, but I think it's pretty fair to say that they are maybe the most agile killers in the game, so 10, just for the fact that mainly they can sprint, light clothing, light weapon, young, and of course they can pallet slide. This makes the scores overall very even, with Legion at 13 points and Huntress at 15. Next category we are going over to stealth, which should be a pretty interesting one. So Huntress is really tricky for this I feel, because part of me thinks, well, she's an expert hunter, she's going to be sneaky and be able to get...
I feel like what makes Huntress not stealthy is the fact that she's humming her lullaby. You give me... I don't know how it goes, but yeah, the fact that she hums her lullaby I think stops her from being a stealthy killer.
Close to her prey and land a good shot before they try to run away. But then again, she's humming the entire time, so you know, a little difficult. So what am I meant to make of that? Maybe as a hunter she goes off of making her prey fearful instead of trying to be silent. I guess so, right? I think for this I'm going to have to stick with 5 again, just for the reason that she would be quite adept at stealth if she just didn't hum so much. So average I think, because she seems to be compelled to hum. Now, Legion right off I think we can pretty safely say is stealthy, lore-wise. In the trailer we see them run right beside a survivor without them being aware. However, and this is a big however, is this really a good measure of stealth? Because Legion can't blend in with the Huntress in the same way. So the whole thing of hiding in plain sight is stealthy, but not really in a 1v1, or in our case a 4v1, so this will hurt their score. Despite this, Legion are small, agile and fast moving, making their stealth factor at minimum just above average. So they get a 6. I think this one is pretty heavily debatable, but I think that's what I'm going with. Next up we're looking into power, which is a measure of
Huntress.
the killer's actual power, but not so much their skill with it, because if that was the case they would all just be 10s, right? Alright, so Huntress's power is just hatchets. She's a bit like Trapper in that her power is fairly simplistic. There isn't much to it. Nothing supernatural, they are literally just a secondary weapon to her primary broadaxe. For that reason, she is getting a fairly basic 3. Legion, on the other hand, seems to have this almost magical rage mode, where they get boosted stats in a sense. So they can run faster, they can vault and slide, and they can stab a lot more efficiently, causing the deep wound effect. They have a pretty cool and multifaceted power that seems to be quite effective, especially when in a group. For this reason, we are putting the Legion's power at 7. 4 of these people sprinting and stabbing, so...
Damn, so I lost! What? That's crazy. Huntress, baby boo! Damn!
well that they create deep wound, in my opinion, is pretty damn effective as a power. Next up, resistance, and I'm actually going to bundle the two of them together because at the end of the day they're both basically just regular people. In this regard, Legion is getting placed at the average of 5, and Huntress is getting put just above at 6. Due to her size being larger, she would likely cope with the blood loss a lot better than any of the Legion members could, because, you know, she has more of it. Yeah, basically both of them wear normal and relatively thin clothing, and they are both regular-ish sized humans with nothing really to suggest they could take a knife or an axe to the chest and come out even slightly unscathed. So yeah, 6 and 5 are Huntress and Legion respectively. Okay, our last category, intelligence. For Huntress, I'm placing her a bit above average at 6. My justification being is that although she is raised mainly in the wilderness, as a child, She also learns a plethora of valuable survival skills. So she is like street smart, but for the wilderness. So like wilder smart, I guess, I don't know. But 6 is the number I'm giving her for the intelligence category. She's a regular human with insanely good survival skills. Alright, now Legion's intelligence is also being set at 6 for fairly similar reasons. Legion is going to have been brought up with a decent education, despite them later becoming delinquents. This does already put them at a solid and average 5. But due to the fact that they are a team, they hunt in a pack due to their lack of menace alone, it's quite smart. Instead of going solo, they fight as one. Also note that they are fairly technically proficient with knives due to the fact that they can get that.
Alright, I was gonna pause it and say, yeah, but when they're in the freaking game, it's not all 4 of them, it's just one of them. But I understand the logic, yes. And like, they do roam in a pack, so damn, I'm being biased, man. I wanted Huntress to win.
That deep wound effect. This means the final scores are 36 to Huntress and 37 to Legion. Another very close round. This was going to be a close one, but I think the Legion winning is about right. Now I'm going to try and do a description of the fight. We can see how this goes. If everyone likes it, I'll be sure to do more, but the Legion hear the Huntress humming, but it doesn't scare them, it drives them. They group up and plan an attack. I'll go through the middle, says Frank. I'm the leader. I'll draw her attention. Julie, you go around the left. Joey, Susie, the right. Frank jumps out, charging directly toward the Huntress at full speed, no fear in his eyes. The Huntress catches him quickly, pulling out a hatchet and lining up a shot. The hatchet goes flying and hits Frank right between the eyes. He dies instantly. The Huntress hears an attack incoming on her left, but it's too late. Julie has already sunk a blade into her leg. The Huntress reacts quickly, headbutting her in close proximity, raising a hatchet and planting it into Julie, pinning her into the floor. The Huntress turns and Joey is standing there. He digs his knife into her heel, and she hits him away with the hilt of her axe. While she's exposed, Susie stabs her beneath the ribs, cutting her open. Huntress swings her broadaxe round, to the blade tight against her. She pummels it with full force. The blade cuts directly across Susie's face, leaving her unconscious on the floor. The Huntress tears off a part of her clothing and attempts to wrap her wounds, but Joey is back on his feet and grabs her round the neck. His blade narrowly misses her throat as she grabs it with her bare hands. The grisly blade saws her hands apart, but she manages to toss Joey aside. He lays on his back, stunned as she raises her axe. Weakened by the cuts on her hands, she still manages to slam it down onto Joey. The Huntress falls to her knees, staring at the bodies around her. Exhausted by the fight, she drops her weapons in relief. As she pants for her breath, clutching and covering every wound she can find, a blade is placed against her neck. Julie stands over her, pieces of fractured hatchet hanging out of her torso. A large wound held in only by a hand which is barely doing the job. Julie stares into her eyes and lets the blade rip through her before falling down herself.
Yikes!
And there we have it. That's the fight. I do hope
sick.
you enjoyed. Please drop a comment, tell me what you thought. Who should fight next? I'm open to changing the fights, so do drop it below. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, AZ. So yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna end the video right here. I can't believe I'm 0 for 2, man. I for sure thought Wraith was gonna win, and I thought, well, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I was just being biased with Huntress because y'all know I main tap, and that's baby boo right there. But yo, let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. If y'all enjoyed this, please drop a like. Let's get this video to 40 likes. If you're new, subscribe. I'm trying to hit 15K subscribers by tomorrow. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload and when I go live. And I enjoyed this a lot, man. Hey, AZ has a lot of good points, you know, why friggin' Trapper won and why Legion would win too, because yo, that's a 4v1. What the hell you gonna do, you feel me? Unless you Superman or Batman or, you know, all those other superheroes, you're not gonna withstand that many people, bro. You're gonna get your ass whooped. But yo, like I said, let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you're having a great day. Keep that positive vibe going. Don't let negative shit get you down. Stay safe, stay blessed, always rap on point. Wash your hands, wash your ass, peace and unity. Till next time, adios.
They like that, boy. It's more than that, homie. It's a lot more than that.